Passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 93% rate. Trevor Zegras.
And they score on the lacrosse move!
Jake Gensel.
Gensel banks it towards the goal, he scores!
Cale Makar.
Cale Makar, he scores!
Stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you're a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey.
My goodness gracious me!
Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow at College Hockey.
This is College Hockey Today. He is Brad Schlossman. I am Jayson Hajdu. We have a lot to get to this week. Schloss, before we do that, I want to talk about Cornell's tribute last Friday to Ken Dryden, the great Ken Dryden, Cornell alum, National Hockey League goaltender, Canadian Member of Parliament who passed away in September. Cornell honored him Friday before their conference home opener against Brown, and a unique twist on the ceremonial face-off.
Yeah, I've never seen this before, but it's very appropriate. They had, I believe it was one of his fraternity brothers that dropped the opening puck, and he came out to center ice, and they had the two starting goalies take the opening faceoff. I thought that was outstanding, great touch, and a really nice tribute. They had a great video on the board there for Ken Dryden, one of college hockey's all-time great goaltenders. So pretty cool moment.
I'm completely blanking on where I saw the quotes. It might have been USCHO. Cornell's goalie, Alexis Cornoyer, from Quebec. So a lot of quotes from him about the extra meaning that moment had for him as a young French-Canadian goaltender. That was pretty cool stuff. Very unique.
Yeah, absolutely. And he may just be the next in line to be a great Cornell goaltender, off to an unbelievable start with the Big Red.
A list that is long and distinguished for sure. Okay, what did we learn last week?
We learned the final Spengler Cup roster.
We did.
I think we've been tracking these announcements as they've come out. Now we kind of get to see the roster in its full picture. And I guess one thing that jumped out to me offhand is when I look at the defensive core, which is Jake Livanovich from North Dakota, Abram Weave from North Dakota, Matt Godowski from Penn State, Eric Polkamp from Denver, Vinny Borghese from Northeastern, Larry Keenan from UMass, and Gavin McCarthy from BU. Go look at the minutes played by those guys. They went and took a bunch of guys that are, Ironmen for their team, that are playing huge minutes, that these coaches obviously trust in all situations and in big situations. I think it's a good mix that you've got some size on the back end. You do have some smaller players, but they made sure to mix in some size as well. A really interesting group back there. That's one thing that jumped out to me, was just that back end is like, oh yeah, these guys all play a ton of minutes. They basically took the minutes leaders in college hockey right now. Up front, the forwards, Charlie Serrato from Penn State, Matt DeMarsico from Penn State, JJ Webush from Penn State, Quinn Finley, Wisconsin, TJ Hughes from Michigan, Danny Nelson, Notre Dame, Cole Knuble, Notre Dame, Joey Maldoni, UConn, Jack Musa, UMass, Zam Plant, Minnesota Duluth, Owen Beckner, Colorado College, Ryan Walsh from Cornell, Jack Stockfish from Holy Cross, Marty Lavins from New Hampshire, and then Aiden Fink from Penn State's been injured. And then the goaltenders, Adam Guyan from Minnesota Duluth, Alex Tracy from Minnesota State, Josh Kotai from Augustana. And there is your Spengler Cup team. I'm fascinated to see how this team does over there. They will be playing opponents that have been together since August, which is always a challenge for the Canadian team. Canada always sends an all-star team over there, and that's always a massive challenge for the Canadian team that goes to play against they basically get these guys together. They're going to practice like 3 times before they start playing games. So it's going to be a crash course, but really an awesome life experience for all of these guys. And I'm excited to follow it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating roster, and I found myself being envious of the SID who gets to put together the line chart each day and move the players around. Nerds like me really dig that stuff. But I'll be interested to see how they settle on a goaltender for game one. But also there's this domino effect of, are there teams that are represented here that are also going to be represented at World Juniors, and are they going to be in a bind for any stretch of games during that time of year?
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
And there are a couple teams that wouldn't let guys go because of that. So, you know, I know, you know, covering North Dakota closely, North Dakota has a series on the 2nd and 3rd. I think these guys, Jake Livanovich and Abram Weber, are going to be flying back into Grand Forks on the 2nd as North Dakota plays Mercyhurst. North Dakota has 7 guys who went to World Junior Camp that all could be gone. They could be absolutely decimated for that series. But Dane Jackson, the head coach, is a guy who has played in the Spengler Cup, and he knows what it's like. And when his guys came and said, "Hey, I've got this offer," Dane said, "Go. It's a great life experience. We'll figure it out back here." I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm curious to talk to these guys when they get back. I know Abram Weeb and Jake Livanovich are both pretty fired up to experience this tournament. Abram Weeb has never been overseas, so this will be a first for him.
Yeah, that'll be the experience of a lifetime for these players. The Spengler Cup begins December 26th. We call that Boxing Day back in Canada, and it culminates on New Year's Eve. 6 teams participating. If you want more information, go to spenglercup.ch.
This also could be a great experience for some guys to there are going to be some eyes on how these guys compete. Like Jack Stockfish is a guy that's going to have a lot of NHL interest. There are teams going to watch Jack Stockfish from Holy Cross, and this is a great scouting event for just to see these guys. A lot of these guys are undrafted free agents that are going to have interest. So a great opportunity for them in that sense as well.
Good point, for sure. Let's get back into the college hockey scene specifically, and we'll start in the independents. And I think the big story there last week was Long Island going into Minneapolis and knocking off the Gophers 6-2 in their series opener. The Gophers did come back to get the split the following day, but a pretty historic win for the Sharks.
Yeah, and I almost saw this coming from a few weeks out. And we had alluded to this before the season started. I think if you're just kind of casually following college hockey, you saw that result and you're like, oh my goodness, what happened here? If you're following it in depth, which if you're listening to this podcast, you probably do, you know that the college hockey, with the opening of the CHL, there are so many, the player pool's way deeper. Everybody got better. And then Long Island opens the season at BU. Long Island outshot BU in that game. 2 weeks later, Long Island takes Penn State to overtime at Penn State. Later in October, Long Island goes and beats Merrimack. Last weekend, or 2 weeks ago, Long Island sweeps Robert Morris on the road. Like, there are signs that this could happen. Long Island's been extremely competitive this year, all year long. And, but obviously a huge win. I think if you're a Minnesota fan, you obviously very disappointed losing that game at home. You maybe look at the shots and see, hey, it was 38-22. Minnesota's a team that had struggled to get shots on goal this season. They finally piled up a bunch. Saturday night, the Gophers come back and win that game 6-3 and have 29 shots on goal. But yes, just a really big win for Long Island. I'm really impressed by what the staff, what Brendan Riley's been able to do, because some of Long Island's best players ended up going over to Ferris State from last year, and it probably wasn't an easy job putting this team back together, and they've sure done a great job, and it showed this weekend.
And that Friday win for Long Island was their 4th straight, and as you mentioned, all of those on the road. They'll finally, Friday, November 21st, this Friday, they will play their first home game of the season against Merrimack, team they've already beaten. And then it's back on the road for 3 more to close out November. So we've mentioned this a lot, but such is life as an independent.
Yes, it is. And we talked last week about Alaska Anchorage. They're currently on their crazy road trip, playing a lot of games in a short amount of time. And Alaska Anchorage starts it out with a loss in overtime at Bentley and then back-to-back wins. So as we record this, we're recording this, by the way, before Alaska Anchorage's game against Brown. Who knows with how many games they're playing? They might have already played 3 more games by the time you're listening to this. So, but good start to the road trip.
Yeah, 2 wins and the overtime loss, like you said. Goaltender Tyler Kritzov, a cool .963 save percentage in those 3 games. They have Brown tonight. They have Holy Cross on Thursday. They'll take a breath Saturday, wrap it up Sunday against Holy Cross again. 6 games, 9 days, including 3 straight weekdays. And then they're off for Thanksgiving. And good for them, I say.
Yes.
Atlantic hockey. I know a couple of freshman forwards at Niagara have caught your eye.
Yeah, Niagara had a bit of turnover last season, and it has really recruited well. And the freshmen that have stood out are Maxim Muranov, Marshall Finney. Finney's brother is currently cracking into the NHL right now. So he comes from a hockey family there. And then the other guy that really stands out is Declan McDonald. He has a really interesting story. So McDonald, he played in the American Hockey League 5 years ago. He is an NHL draft pick, bumped into the AHL, went back to the CHL, played 2 years of U Sport, and now he's at Niagara. He's a junior. And I think what impresses me is not only are guys like Muranov and McDonald scoring for Niagara, these guys bring a little bit of physicality too. And that was on display last night. Niagara had a really big win last night over red hot RIT. RIT had won 9 straight games?
9 straight, yep.
Big win for Niagara to get that one. It's 3 wins in a row, and really those new players have been great. The other new player that has been great for Niagara has been Thomas Anderson in net. He had won back-to-back games. He was the first goalie to do that in a few years, to have a 2-game sweep with the same goalie playing both nights for Niagara. I also believe Muranov, he had a hat trick against Army. He was the first Niagara hat trick since 2018.
It's a long time.
So he's red hot. But Anderson had played great the last 3 games in goal. He was dialed last night, and then he made this phenomenal save going from left to right, and it just looked like he got shaken up on the play. Trainers came out, looked at him. He decided to stay in the game. They played another minute, and then there was a media timeout. He went right down the locker room. Niagara ended up bringing out Dave Rolovs, who has played quite a bit and had a successful junior career, and he ends up holding down the fort and finishing off the win. Hopefully Anderson is all right, because he was playing really well for Niagara. But interesting game and a great game winner last night from Ethan Lund. Just beautiful snipe for the game winner. So Niagara coming on right now, and it's really been a tremendous recruiting job to replenish the roster after Niagara lost several of its best players from last season.
Ethan Lund, the senior defenseman, had the overtime winner. That was his sixth goal, in 85 college games. Half of those 6 have been game winners. Neat stat there. They're not the only hot team in Atlantic hockey either. Holy Cross unbeaten in their last 7, 6 wins and a tie in that span.
Yeah, they just keep rolling. They've been impressive this year. RIT's been really impressive. That obviously RIT's winning streak came to an end, but still not a full loss. And, Simon Isabel has been really good for them. Christian Catalano has been really good. They've found a way to get some production there, and that team is rolling. I really think the key to RIT is Jakub Kurbacek in net, though. They really needed to solidify that position coming out of last year, and boy, has he done it. And he's been really impressive. So should be a really good battle in Atlantic hockey for the league championship right now. It's shaping up to be.
Yeah, the top of the standings in that league are usually pretty fascinating by the end of the year, and this year looks to be no different. Over in the Big Ten, they are putting in the work in non-conference this year. They have put in the work to date. 700 winning percentage in non-conference play. We're looking right now, very, very, very early, but 5 teams looking at a spot in the NCAA tournament so far.
Yeah, I actually haven't looked at that because my rule is to wait till Thanksgiving, and then I'll sit down and look at it for the very first time.
I think, and by all accounts too, sorry to interrupt, but even with the new MPI, we can probably wait even a little longer.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know the data. I used to say Christmas, like don't look at the pairwise till Christmas. And then I think it was Adam Woden came out with an article that detailed like this is what the pairwise looked like at Thanksgiving the last 5 years, and these are the teams that made the tournament. And then the percentage of teams that were in the top 16 at Thanksgiving and that were at the end of the year, I was like, oh wait, there is something to that. You probably remember when we were in Bemidji and Tim Boger brought up the pairwise to me in like early November, and I just snapped on him.
Yes, I do remember.
I just snapped on him, and now I feel bad. Sorry, Tim. Shouldn't have snapped. You might have been onto something. But that and thunder sticks being popped in the suites during while you're trying to file in the press box are the two nastiest looks I've ever seen on a human being. Yeah, I do not like thunder sticks whatsoever. But yeah, no, the Big Ten is off to a good start this season. Michigan obviously is rolling. Michigan State is the number 1 ranked team in the country. Wisconsin continues to be outstanding this season. Penn State's off to a good start. The one team that really is surprised me a little bit is Ohio State. I missed on Ohio State. I had them. They're better than I thought they would be. Ohio State right now is 5-5, but just you watch them play a little bit and they're pretty impressive. I thought the 5-1 win over Wisconsin, really impressive. They come back the next night and go to overtime. A good weekend for the Buckeyes in Madison against a terrific Wisconsin team. So that's the one that I just think I screwed up. Ohio State's better than I thought they'd be.
Let's talk about a specific player here too before we leave the Big Ten. And I know Gavin McKenna has rightfully consumed a lot of the oxygen in the college hockey discourse the first couple of months. But another freshman in the Big Ten, Porter Martone, has been very, very good from start to finish to date. Points in 8 of 10 this year, multi-point games in 5 of his last 7, and does not look out of place at all.
No, it was weird. It almost felt, if you media coverage wise, that he was the consolation prize to McKenna, right? The same teams who were in on McKenna were the same teams in on Martone. He ends up going to Michigan State, and there is nothing consolation prize about Porter Martone. He's had a terrific start as he's scoring a lot. He's 7 goals in 10 games, plus 12. He's the leading scorer on the number 1 team in the country as a 18-year-old freshman. He's had a tremendous season for Michigan State so far.
As we switch to the CCHA, you mentioned earlier the dogfight shaping up at the top of the Atlantic hockey standings. We're seeing something similar in the CCHA right now. That's 4 teams, maybe 5 teams, just going tooth and nail right now early on in the conference season.
Well, there are 4 teams that haven't lost in regulation yet in that league.
Nuts.
They're playing an incredible number of overtimes in that game, led by Bemidji State. The Beavers have played 8 conference games. 6 have gone to overtime. 5 of the last 6 have been overtime, including each of the last 3. Last weekend, Bemidji State and Michigan Tech, overtime back-to-back nights. Poor Jared Rabedo at the Bemidji Pioneer. His deadlines are crunched every night. But they're not alone. Bowling Green has not lost in regulation this season. And Michigan Tech has not lost in regulation. Minnesota State has not lost in regulation. So you have 4 teams there. Bowling Green has been pretty impressive this year. I feel it's been quiet lately. What Bowling Green has gone 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a row without a regulation loss. So value in 8 straight for Bowling Green.
They scored 14 goals last weekend.
14 goals. They had the crazy 9-5 game against Ferris State, an absolute goalie save percentage nightmare because shots on goal in that 9-5 game were 23-21. But yeah, Bowling Green has just kind of quietly stacked up a nice run lately. You know, the back-to-back ties against Minnesota State on the road. Anytime you can go to Mankato and play a weekend and not lose a game, it's pretty good. They played the back-to-back overtimes against Bemidji State the week before, swept Lake Superior State on the road. There are some things happening for this Bowling Green team right now.
Yeah, their big line of Emerson, Martone, and Ryan had 5 goals and 10 points in that bonkers Friday night game. 6-point weekend for Martone too. So good to see Bowling Green clicking early. You mentioned Tech. I also want to shout out Steven Sardarian. He did not have a point on opening night. And since then, he's reached the score sheet in all 11 games. Just an absurd heater he's on right now. Early on, he was just piling up assist after assist after assist. Now he's finding the net too. He's a good one.
He is. He's a guy that he's a driver on that team. Michigan Tech, very fortunate to get him back for a senior season, and he's sure producing.
I'm going to read you a quote here from a College Hockey News, from a CHN article. We don't want to surprise anyone this year. We want people to know we're good, and we want people's best. That's Union coach Josh Hajdu. His team just throttled a couple of Hockey East teams last weekend. They beat UMass Lowell 7-1. They beat New Hampshire 6-0. They have 2 losses in 11 games this year, and they're in the national polls as of this week.
They're the real deal. That one I did have a Union second in the league in my preseason predictions, so I'm not totally shocked. One guy that's really blossomed for Union is defenseman Tyler Dunbar. He spent 2 years at Colorado College. As a freshman, he had 1 point. As a sophomore, he had 1 point. He was kind of an in and out of the lineup guy. He was playing, a third of the games there. Tyler Dunbar is playing huge minutes right now. He is over 20 almost every single night. He is up to 24 a lot of nights. He has 10 points in 11 games. That has been just a terrific find out of the transfer portal for Union. Brandon Burr's been red hot lately, but they're able to add in Tyler Dunbar, Etienne Lassard, who I think we kind of figured would add some offense. He was really dynamic in the USHL last year. And all of a sudden, this team is getting a lot of production from around the lineup. Cameron Corpy, pretty highly touted goalie. Great pickup for Union. He's at 927. So this team has a little bit of everything going on right now.
You mentioned Brandon Burr. He's got 3 points in each of the last 3 games. Union's shots on goal differential after 11 games is plus 199. That's an average of 18 shots on goal per game, better than their opponents.
Oh my goodness. That's insane. That is incredible. So Should be a great matchup Friday night. Union goes to Cornell, who we know can be a terrific defensive team. And then at Colgate on Saturday. Should a couple of great matchups. Colgate, a little bit interesting. Colgate's dealing with a little bit of injuries. Jack Brandt and Max Nagel, who are two of the best players for Colgate, they are both out right now with injuries. Simon LaBelle has come in and tallied 9 points in the last 4 games. He had 6 points on the line with Ryan Sullivan and Ryan Spinelli. That's impressive when you can take 2 guys out of the lineup and find some magic there. So Union has a couple really intriguing matchups this weekend. Not sure if either Jack Brandt or Max Nagel will be back for that series or that game against Union on Saturday night.
We'd be remiss if we didn't also mention Dartmouth. They are off this weekend, but 6-0 to start the season for the first time since 1957-58.
Incredible start for Dartmouth. They've just been tough to score on. Nobody's really producing a whole lot against Dartmouth. I think five straight games they've allowed 1 goal. They allowed 2 to Stonehill in the season opener, and since then, it's just not been easy for opponents to score. They are rotating goalies, and it sure is working.
As we move over to Hockey East, let's drill down on Boston University and the issues it's having keeping the puck out of the net. I mentioned Union's shots on goal differential. BU is almost the inverse of that. They're at a negative 60 shots on goal differential. That's not something we're used to seeing from that program. What are your thoughts so far on BU through the first couple of months?
Well, Jay Pandolfo, after the 6-2 loss to Quinnipiac this weekend, he let his team have it. He said, if you look at the Daily Free Press, the student-run newspaper there, his quote was, "Pathetic, embarrassing. That's one of the worst games I've been a part of. Give them credit. They're a very well-coached team. We're a very poorly coached team based off what I just saw." And the reporter asked him to elaborate on why they're poorly coached. He said, "Look at the way we play hockey. That's on me for not holding guys accountable, not playing to a certain standard. Don't block a shot. Don't cover anyone in front of the net. Just let the team skate circles around us. Some of that has to be attributed to the way I'm coaching these guys." So Jay Pandolfo is obviously fed up and wants BU to defend a little harder, and that is going to be the key because scoring hasn't really been the problem for BU. BU is getting offense. It is defending. BU gave up 8 goals to UConn in late October. A week later, gave up 8 to Maine. Gave up 6 in a 2-game span to Merrimack, which isn't bad. They swept that, but then they come back and give up 6 in a single game to Quinnipiac. And really, if BU is going to make a run, that is the area the Terriers need to address. A lot of talent on that team, 19 NHL draft picks. We saw what Mikhail Yegorov can do in net last season. And, I thought watching the Quinnipiac game, I'm not giving a lot of fault to Yegorov. That Quinnipiac had 25 shots on goal in the first period of that game. So that's not on the goalie. That's a team that needs to defend better. There are big expectations for BU. I know they've had some injuries with Sasha Boisvert and Cole Iserman missing some games. Both those guys were back this weekend. They both played. So the Terriers have to find a way to defend a little better. And, Nick Rukanakis was back. He's a guy that can add a little bit different element. And when he was out of the lineup, maybe that's something I would point to, like, hey, when Rukanakis gets back, he can, add some of that. And he did. And BU had a power play at the end of the game. Jay Pandolfo threw his 4th line out on the ice. And the Daily Free Press said, "Why'd you do that?" He said, "That was the only line that came to play, and that was Rukanakis." He scored his first college goal, by the way. He's a sophomore. He did not score last year. He got one in his first game. against Quinnipiac. So he played very well in that game. He had 6 shots on goal. So that line came to play. But, clearly BU needs to defend better if it wants to get to back to the Frozen Four where it's been.
Yeah, it's just jarring to see them bottom 10 in save percentage nationally. They've allowed the 3rd most goals in all of college hockey. It's not going to get any easier. They have a home and home with Northeastern this weekend. They do get a pretty valuable non-conference opportunity at the end of the month against Cornell in Madison Square Garden. So they've got some runway ahead of them, but it's not. It doesn't look to be an easy one by any stretch.
No, they've got to find a way to improve that area in order to rise up the standings.
A couple other notes. UConn swept Northeastern. Boston College, their second straight sweep. A couple of wins over UMass. Last week, we talked about Roger McQueen, the freshman at Providence, the first-round draft pick, and whether he was on the verge of a breakout after firing 12 shots on goal. Well, the breakup came on Friday. 2 goals and an assist, his first 2 college goals and a win over Merrimack. He's got 22 shots on goal the last 3 games.
Jeez. Yeah, he's feels like he's coming alive there. I think the coaching staff there is felt that he was coming alive, that he was playing pretty well, and all of a sudden he's tied for 3rd on that team and scoring behind John Mustard and Logan Sawyer. So good for Roger McQueen. He obviously had a really tough year last year. He was dealing with, I think it was a back injury. He missed a lot of the year, and he's just kind of getting back into it now. Same thing with Caden Lindstrom at Michigan State. These are guys who missed significant portions of last year and might take a little bit to get back into things.
All right, in the NCHC, it's not often we choose a team coming off a pair of losses for our focus in a given week, but we are going to zoom in on Colorado College, a team you think has played much better than its record indicates, and possibly a team to watch in the second half.
Yeah, we had talked a little bit about Denver, and Denver's on a little bit of a run since that loss to Alaska Anchorage on Halloween. Denver's won 5 straight games, and pretty impressive. Going to Lawson and beating Western, going home and home with CC, winning both of those. So Denver's playing really well. Its goaltender Quentin Miller has been lights out, but CC is the team I think nobody's really talking about it. You look at their record, 6-5-1, 1-4-1 in the NCHC, and you say they're okay, or maybe not great. But CC, they passed the eye test. If you watch their games, CC's looked pretty good. And if you look at their analytics, they're actually quite good. If you look at even strength expected goals, who is leading the country right now in this analytic? Number 1, Denver. Number 2, Michigan State. Number 3, Western Michigan. Number 4, Michigan. Number 5, Union. Number 6, Colorado College. Right behind the Tigers, Penn State and Quinnipiac. Then Ohio State and Wisconsin. So they're generating a lot of chances. They're playing really well. They just have not finished on a lot of them right now, I feel. I believe they're one of the leaders in the nation in underperformance. Like when you look at expected goals to actual goals, they should be scoring. They deserve to be scoring more than they are. They're one of the leaders in that. So is Western Michigan, by the way. So I think this is a team, especially when you look at how young the Tigers are up front. A lot of times those freshmen come around in the second half of the year. The fact that they're playing this well already, I think this is a team to look out for in the second half of the year. They look really good. They look the part.
Some bad luck for sure. 1 win since Halloween. The 4 losses are by a single goal, and then there was a shootout loss with an overtime tie at Arizona State. So they'll host Minnesota Duluth this weekend. They'll host Providence Thanksgiving weekend, a chance to get right in the next couple of weeks at home heading into December.
Yeah, those should be excellent matchups, both of them. And we'll see if they can finally get the wins to follow how well they've played. That's the next key. Like, can you turn these shots on goal advantages into wins? On Saturday night, CC outshot Denver 40-26, lost 3-2. Friday night, that game, the shots were pretty much equal, 31-30. It was a 2-1 Denver overtime win. It just feels like a lot of these games that CC's losing, you watch the games and you're like, CC deserved better fate.
Also in the NCHC, Western Michigan, after a bit of an uncharacteristic 3-game skid, they got back on track with a sweep of Miami, and Omaha blanked red-hot Minnesota Duluth. Freshman Dawson Cowan with the shutout for the Mavericks.
Yeah, Dawson Cowan gets in on Saturday night and does the job. He's gotten in on a couple Saturday nights now, and he won both of them.
Mm-hmm.
He won a game out at Colorado College on November 1st. CC rolled Simon Latkozy both against North Dakota, then brought him out again against Minnesota Duluth. So maybe Dawson Cowan's going to sneak in into a rotation a little bit there with Omaha. And you mentioned Western Michigan getting back on the winning side. It's one of the reasons I do like, and I know analytics aren't everything, but sometimes they tell a little bit of a story. And if you looked at Western Michigan's, even with that average start results-wise, Western was dominating teams a lot of those games, and they're indicating, look out, they're coming. And I think we saw that. Should be a great series between Western Michigan and Omaha this weekend.
No doubt. So let's look ahead then a little bit. North Dakota has an exhibition game Friday against the NTDP. So you've got Saturday off. You've got your choice of games for once.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of choices.
Yeah, I've already started looking at Saturday. I think Wisconsin playing at Michigan State is going to be a great series between two teams that could fight for the Big Ten title. You look around to some of the other leagues. Basically, every series in the CCHA seems to be interesting now. Michigan Tech and Minnesota State is the one that I have my eyes on there. I think in Hockey East, I am curious to see Northeastern play at BU. I think Maine playing at BC is going to be a great matchup. Providence at UMass is going to be great. So that's going to be a really fun weekend there. And ECAC, we talked a little bit about Union Colgate already. I think that has potential to be an interesting one as well. So I kind of have my choice of games there. I'm kind of leaning toward Hockey East. I think this is going to be a really fun weekend in Hockey East. And I really don't know how those games are going to transpire. So that one's good. I actually did kick around the idea of driving over to Bemidji to watch Bemidji State in Northern. I've done that before. When North Dakota plays one game on a weekend, I look to see if Bemidji's home. For people out east, I know it's really easy for you guys to bounce around. The closest other D1 team for me is Bemidji State, and they are 2 hours away. So the 2 hours is a close drive for me. People out east are just laughing. They're like, I can go to 11 places in 2 hours. But the next closest is probably St. Cloud State, which is 4 hours away.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
So it's not easy for me. The reason I probably won't go to Bemidji State is because I'm going there on Friday. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm already going to go there. Don't really. So I might have my eyes on that one, though, just to, because that's the team I'm going to be watching. There's a lot of really new, intriguing players on Bemidji State. So, yeah, it should be a great Saturday. As much as I do love going to the rink on weekends, it's the best going to watch a game. But every once in a while, I sit home on a weekend and I flip between 6 games, and I'm like, you have it made, Hodge. You get to watch all these games. It's kind of great. If one game starts not being so great, you just flip to another one. I'm like, man, this is fun.
It's not bad. And I like my first weekend post SID career was really, really weird. Like it was like an out of body experience. Like I felt like I needed to be somewhere. I'm late for something. I'm in sweatpants. I got to hurry up out the door. But after that, it was really easy to settle in. I'm not going to lie. The multi-screen experience is usually happening every Friday and Saturday. So it's like the NCAA tournament, but every weekend. Like you're watching all these games that you're not emotionally invested in like you are with your team as an SID, and it's pretty cool. It's not bad. It's good life.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, so it's an exhibition game, a little less intense of a week, but you're still working, still covering a game. What are you working on this week?
I have to decide that, don't I? I need to kick out some stories this week. No, it's a weird one with the U18s coming here, and there's no North Dakota commits on the U18s. That's my easy default story is writing about that. It's I am going to throw this out there for the people. There in college hockey, you can have 34 regular season games and 2 exhibitions. I'm wondering, should college hockey go to 36 and 1 exhibition? Should North Dakota be playing games that matter this weekend? I don't know. I kind of tend to think so. The NFL has kind of done that, cut down the preseason schedule, added a game. The NHL's moving toward an 84 game instead of 82 game schedule. Should college hockey follow suit and cut out one of those exhibitions, add 2 games? You're not adding any length to the season. You're just giving more of an opportunity. Something to ponder. Tweet at me. What do you think? Are there problems with that? Would you like to see that? I'm curious. Let's hear some.
Interesting. At Schlossman GF, is that where they can find you? Remind me.
Yes, sir.
All right, you got it. Okay, Schloss, thanks for joining us. I will see you in a couple days. I'll be in Grand Forks this weekend. Pleasure, not business, but I will be at the rink. So looking forward to getting back to the Ralph and seeing all the friendly faces in the press box.
I'll see you then.
All right, thanks for joining. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thanks to Chris and Kate editing the show for us. Enjoy the hockey.